for some reason one of the cables isn't working. I'm Aron Atkins. I'm going to talk quickly about what we're doing in some of our tests to do some automatic markup validation. Really, as you know, a Rails app can produce hundreds, if not thousands, of different actions, different pages, in all kinds of different formats. Really, what you want to do in order to reduce your risk is to do as much mechanical validation as you can without worrying about it. So some things you can easily do: XML, HTML, CSS, RSS, other kinds of XML formats. By default, at least Rails doesn't do this for you, and you have to do a little bit of work to get it to happen automatically. There's a couple plugins out there that go most of the way. There's a plugin called Assert Valid Markup, which by default goes out to the W3 validator service and validates every document you've got, if you tell it to. And if you want to install a local server, you can improve your performance. But we're using it going over the net, and it's not so bad. There's also something called Assert Valid Asset, which is built upon the previous plugin, which again uses W3 Validator, but also validates CSS. There's an RSS parser built into Ruby. It's not great, but it gets most of the common stuff, and of course you can do other things. This is just kind of to open discussion a little bit. So what we're doing is using one of the two plugins plus the RSS built into Ruby to do some markup. Right now we're using Assert Valid Markup. We're not doing CSS validation at this time, just because we found the other one first. I've written a little helper that you can plug in, grab it at our blog, and once you include it in your test helper, you're ready to go. Now, what does it do? It basically aliases away the default get and posts from the test helpers and replaces them with really what you'd expect: the original non-validating get and non-validating post, followed by some function called check markup. And check markup, based on whatever is returned, goes and runs the appropriate assertion on your markup return. So now you have no extra work. You have a get inside of your functional test, inside of your integration test, and it's automatically checked for validation. Now you notice that I've got a couple special cases here. I've got an environment variable that says if I want to turn off validation, I can do that. If you just really want to do a quick sanity check on your tests and you don't want to run validation, but I don't know why you wouldn't. If it's a redirect, I'm not doing validation because really that's just a really dumbed down HTML fragment. Certain types of JavaScript or JSON or KML, XML responses, right now I'm falling into all RSS, but that's going to have to change as we do things like sitemap.xml or different other kinds of XML formats. But for now, you can see where this is going. And this is the assert HTML valid. It calls the plugin's assert valid markup, and on failure, it prints out the document because it doesn't get printed out by default, so you'd have to go back into the test, add a print out the document, and then figure it out. And then it re-raises so it sees that it's a failure. And RSS validation is very similar. We parse with the parser. We make it actually a little bit relaxed in how it parses because it doesn't understand a lot of extensions like the GeoRSS or some other extensions to RSS, and I haven't added those to the parser yet. And that's it. And then you just make sure that there's no cannot be processed stuff that comes back, and you're basically doing a decent job of validation. So here's the code, and I want to show you kind of what happens when you try to do this. So I've got a really simple app right now, and if I run my tests, everything's going to pass. I've got two controllers, a good controller and a bad controller. Now, if I, for purposes here, add in my test validation helper and rerun those tests. This is a really dummied up example, but it's small enough. I've got two failures. The first failure, I'm not going to show you the document because it's up higher, But the first failure says you've got an end tag for a UL which is not open, and the end tag for an OL is omitted. So I mismatched my list tags. And that's the HTML validation check. And we went out to W3 to validate that. And then the RSS is a not well-formed error. And as you can see, we've got a title equals name here, and it's not really happy about that. And so if we go and look at the generators for each of these guys, let's look at the index first. As you can see, I've got an OL and a UL. They're mismatched. I can change them. And then in the RSS, it's a little bit more tricky if you don't know what you're looking for. Title is a function name, not an assignment. And the equals there is actually getting shoved into the tag. And that was causing a problem. So you get rid of that, you save, and you rerun, and everything passes. So that's that. Questions? Sure.
How long does it take? How much overhead is there in?
It's not so bad. So, we run our tests for all of our controllers, all of our tests, probably in 5 minutes or so. The plugin is actually really good about trying to cache results on the disk. So if it's generated a document and it's already sent that document out to the validator, it doesn't go and try to revalidate that same document.
Cool. Okay.
So it's not so bad.
Okay. I was wondering how it would play with something like auto test.
Yeah, I mean, it takes longer. It definitely takes longer. And if you really care about performance, go to W3 and read about how to install your own validator. For me, it wasn't worth the effort. Yep.
Synchronous or asynchronous?
Sorry?
Is the validation synchronous with the?
Synchronous. The plus is something that I'm printing out when the validation completes. Yep.
We use assert select for doing really basic view testing in applications, and I noticed that it will catch some misformed XHTML, and I haven't really looked into how well it's doing. I wondered if you looked at that plugin and what validation it does, if any.
No, what does it do exactly?
Well, for example, it will actually catch
parse
mismatched list tags. If you had that,
so
it seems to be doing
the
some
DOM,
parsing.
or?
Well, that's what I haven't looked into.
Yeah, okay.
But it definitely will. It won't fail the test, but it will print out a message which complains that the XHTML doesn't look right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've gotten all kinds of things. If our document declaration is one strictness level and we're not following that, or we've got old style image tags or anything that you can guess, it's going to bark about. So when you first do this, you may even want to just do it per controller and work your way through. That's how we originally put it in. Maybe even per action if you're really dirty.
Can you tell which, how valid, what strictness it is on the validation?
Well, you're telling it in the head of the HTML document.
Okay.
So. Any other questions? Great, thanks.